Hello and welcome to Season 2 of Teacher Talk, the podcast for teachers who are lifers but still want to have a life. I'm Jared, and as always, I'm joined by my partner, Johanna. Hey, Johanna.
Hello, Jared.
What are we going to talk about today?
High stakes testing.
What's that?
It's like a thing that happens. It happens twice a year if you teach secondary, probably. It happens maybe 3 times a year if you teach elementary. It's how do you teach on those days when you need a classroom environment that causes kids to get the best scores that they can? And I handle this very differently than a normal classroom experience.
And these are high stakes tests because the people who pass get to go on and the losers get turned into Soylent or what?
It means that a lot goes into this one test. So if it's finals for high school kids, right, the final score goes.
Yep.
Or if it's elementary students and they're taking an assessment that maybe is high stakes for you, or the score, it only happens.
Is this like the No Child Left Behind tests?
Yeah.
Is that still a thing? Do we decide to start leaving children behind?
Yes, it's still a thing. There's still high stakes testing, and depending on your state, it influences how you're paid. It influences how your school is evaluated or seen. It could be reported out as public knowledge. It's.
I saw a headline the other day that for the first time, like in a long time or like ever, 90% of students are graduating from high school. So that's good, probably, unless we're just doing something bad to achieve that.
Well, that's a whole nother podcast.
Okay.
So.
But that kind of testing, you got to take a great big test.
It is an important day in your classroom. And what are some things as a teacher you can do to have a successful experience for you and your students?
Lay it on me.
Okay. So the first thing would be that your behavior management system goes out the window.
No behavior management system?
Nope. Not like that.
Oh, your normal behavior management system?
Don't do that anymore.
All right.
Okay? So that does not mean I recommend like being mean, because that will cause all the other kids to feel anxiety, and then that will cause your scores to be low. So instead, you need to be a little bit proactive, but basically you're going to go to old school teaching methods, which is if someone is harming...
Finally. I've been doing this podcast for a year and a half now. We finally get to be old school.
Yes.
So you whack their desk with a yardstick.
No.
When they're not looking.
That causes anxiety in the other kids. Don't do that. Okay, so option 1 is...
So it's not old school?
That's not what I mean by old school. There's no warnings. There's no anger. There's just, you're not welcome here in this classroom. So if you teach at the high school level, this could be a conversation in advance with all the students to just explain that on testing day, we need this to be a calm environment where everyone can do their best work. And some of us, when we are doing something where it's really anxiety inducing, the thing that makes us feel better is to act out. And if that's you, please talk to me in advance, because you're not in trouble, but let's get you a separate testing location or a separate testing time so that you can have the best you and you don't harm others.
Better for everyone.
Yes. You'll be surprised how kids that you would think like lacked the ability to be considerate or empathetic will take you up on that if it's presented the right way. It was common for me to have students who, I don't know, I just didn't necessarily think that they thought beyond their own needs, and they would take me up on that.
Well, because it's win-win in a way, right?
Yeah, and I just
it's less problem for them.
Yeah.
That way they don't get in trouble as hard.
And that doesn't mean that I work like more. I often used the office or some other resource available to me, or a different teacher's classroom. Like if another teacher had planned during that time, like I could often get them to just let the kid come in and test there. Like it was less work for everybody, and it caused better scores for everybody to figure out a solution in advance.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good idea, I think.
Yeah, it works pretty well. And then the other thing is to have a plan in place for the fact that you're not going to give warnings. Like
no warnings.
Yep, I would just pick up the kids' testing supply, and I would already have preset up where I wanted them to go.
Which is like
somewhere else. They weren't going to be in my room anymore.
Are they going to continue to take the test, or are they just done for now?
It depended on what I organized. So if I knew I was going to have a problem, then I created something already in advance so that they could keep testing, but in a different location. But if I was surprised that they were needing a different location, then like...
They can start the test over some other time?
Yep. I got to get them out. Like at that point, I'm kind of stuck with a kid that needs to take my assessment another time. I have... over 30 other kids that need to have a really good experience and need me to have this be like chillax.
But what if I'm a really clever kid and I realize like 70% of my way into the test, I've already read all the questions, I already know all the answers. Now I'm going to disrupt Johanna, get kicked out, and get a chance to take the whole test over again after I know almost all of it.
I never had a kid do that.
It seems like the Venn diagram on that one's pretty... There's not much overlap between caring that much about maximizing
at that point, they're not going to take the test over again. I'm just going to take their test, grade what they have done, and then they can finish the portion that isn't done at a different time.
Can you do that with like the little bubble tests?
Yes. Well, you're talking like a time test. Okay, if I didn't think about getting to those. If you're doing something like a timed state test, then I would make sure to know what the rules are in advance. But yes, I would say jot down how much time they have left. I mean, it's like if a kid started puking during the test. Like,
sure.
This is how much time we have left. And then they're going to take it another time, and they don't want to erase anyway, because a lot of times on those tests...
Poison them so that they puke, and then they're gone?
No, stop.
No?
Okay. Anyway, they got to go. There's no warnings. No warnings. They are making...
Frontier justice.
They are making everybody else anxious. They're distracting everyone else. Out they go. And don't make it mean, because then that, even if you get rid of them... Then now the other kids are anxious and not paying attention because something scary happened. Like
always.
It's gotta be super chill.
Johanna's constant advice is that there's no emotion in behavior. There's just consequences.
Yeah.
It might as well be on stone tablets from a mountain. You're just enforcing what needs to happen because of how the rules are.
Yeah.
It's not because you've decided that you're mad at this person for acting out, and therefore in anger you're removing them.
Right. No. Nope.
It's just the consequence of being disruptive during this time is immediate.
I'm required to have a testing environment that is conducive to every student. So like I even have rules about you're not allowed to shuffle your stuff.
Right.
Like if you finish your test, there's no shuffling. There's no getting up. There's no like I already have out what you're going to do when you finish your test. Okay, this is kind of the next thing. So like those little line puzzles where you have to those little line mazes are great. Any sort of like color by number activities are great. Any sort of like puzzle, like not like there's pieces, but you know how there's those like puzzle books and you like one of these 5 things is different, circle all the differences, or what, like
corporate needs you to find the difference between these 2 pictures.
Yes, like all those type of things.
They're the same picture.
Have those pre printed and just the kids don't shuffle, they don't pick up a book, they don't stack their stuff together. Like, I'm the only one walking around the room. I'm the only one moving papers. And what I am giving you is something that's like entertaining enough.
Got it.
Yeah. And kids like it. Like, they'll totally do one of those line puzzles. Sure. You can find really cool artistic ones where it's like the entire page of like trying to get somewhere. And it's just something they don't do anymore because of like technology and stuff. So they are like, ooh, what's, like some kids, I've had 14-year-olds be like, what is this? And I'm like, oh. But just pre-teach in advance.
Like how when I listen to vinyl?
Kids know what vinyl is.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Oh.
But
because their parents are all
just teach in
hipsters?
Advance when you're done with the test, this is what you're going to get.
Got it.
Yep. There's no, you're not going to move papers. You're not going to stand up. If you need anything.
Just let them use their phones.
No, that's super. My God.
Why wouldn't
no
that
phones.
work?
No phones are coming into the room at all, period, on testing day. That's like that's standard practice. That's just practicing for any sort of.
Why can't they leave then?
Oh, because your school probably that's distracting too. Then literally a kid is getting like.
So just because I get done fast, I have to be punished and sit here?
Yes.
Oh. Make the time shorter.
No. This is the way it is.
What if I'm bored though?
You aren't. I gave you a little puzzle.
And you're saying usually that will be satisfactory?
Just
even
everything explained the day before.
Even
in
to
advance,
student Jared.
Super chillax. This is what's going to happen. This is what we're going to do. This is why we're going to do it. Do things like say like, how many of you, if a friend taps a pencil, all you can hear is the tapping sound? Oops. If a friend taps a pencil, all you can hear is the tapping sound. And a bunch of kids will raise their hand. How many of you...
That's literally not all you can hear.
No, but it's like all I can focus on. If someone...
What if we're testing the ability to focus?
No, we're not.
What if we should?
Oh, so this is another thing I do. Like a lot of people with IEPs, it will say like separate testing location. I let every kid... I just announce, if you think you will get a better score by taking this in some space where you are by yourself, there are not other kids, let me know after class. Very few kids will take you up on it, but the ones who do, they're not fooling. Like, they want a separate location. They will do a better job. Give it to them. Like, that's what you want, the highest scores you can get. Yeah. I would rather try and figure out where 5 kids in a class period are going to go so that they have a quiet testing location and have them do 10% better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hilariously enough, like, our own daughter happens to be in my class, and she took me up on a better testing environment, and I thought she was just kind of being, I know her as a parent. I'm just like, psh.
She's being snotty with it.
This is a Johanna run classroom. Like, this is the primo place to take. Dude, she totally scored much higher than I thought she would do in a separate testing location. Because, like, I had given her, like, it was like 10 or 15% better.
Oh.
Yeah. Like, she was not kidding. And I thought I knew her. And I run a very friendly testing environment.
All you had to do was ask.
All I had to do was ask. And
then arrange it. But
yeah, I don't let them raise their hands. I don't let it organize in class. You'll get all of them wanting a different one. But put a little bit of stake into it. Talk to me after class.
A little bit of pork chop.
If they remember 25 minutes later and ask you for it, then...
Because if it's worth that much to them, they will. Otherwise, they...
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
What else do I need to know?
Okay, so what if you're doing young children? Like you're doing a test with high-stakes test, young kids.
Is there something special I need to know?
Okay, is it on the computer or not?
No.
If it's not on the computer, then I recommend setting up environments where they are like circled the room facing the wall, and they feel like they're in a little cubicle.
So they're isolated. They're not like looking at each other.
Yes.
Why?
Because they'll do better. I think that visual distraction is a little harder, and I think that young kids tend to self-talk and self-whisper, and so if they're face the wall, those small self-whispers and self-talks won't bother other people. Also, I learned that like kindergarten students will get better scores if they're able to lay on their tummy and do the work, or are able to like physically, like when their brain is working really hard, it's like their body has to move too.
Yeah, I get that. I'm constantly futzing with my hair when I'm thinking hard.
Yeah.
I'm digging my fingers through my thick, luxurious hair.
You do have really good hair.
And then, but like I for my entire life, I've done that. When I'm thinking hard, I like to, my theory is that it like stimulates the like blood flow to the brain or something, but
they need space to move. And so I let them, like, do you want a chair? Do you not want a chair? Do you want a desk? Do you want to be on the floor? And again, this can all be planned out in advance. If what a kid describes they need, I mean, at this point, you know your kids a lot better, then you are going to decide that they need a separate testing location just because that's what they need. Like a kid will get a better score if they are allowed to talk while they take the assessment.
Then give them that.
Then give them that. Like, I have kids that's 100% true for. They need to self-talk the whole time. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be outside your classroom. Like, if you want to put in more energy and effort than I'm willing to put into it, but I've had teachers do this and it was, like, successful for them, is they went to the, like, big box stores, you know, all the like refrigerators and dishwashers come in those boxes.
Oh, you mean literally big box?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they get like
a refrigerator box?
Yeah.
That's a little
not a refrigerator box, but they get like these testing boxes for a couple of kids. In my particular room.
Why not a refrigerator box?
That's like too big.
That's
ginormous.
But you make little cubicles for them,
yeah,
essentially?
You can cut them into two boxes so you have sides and a ceiling, because the ceiling helps keep the sound right here. So they don't need to crawl into the box. It's more like this little
cone of silence.
It's got two walls and a ceiling, and the kid goes.
Because it's like a cone of silence. All the kids listening to the podcast are like, "What are you talking about?"
But they fold flat.
Yeah.
And like, I know that other teachers have found that to be very successful. My classroom, I'm able to organize it enough because I have different seating environments that like I can give a kid a space where they self-talk a little bit and it's able to not be overheard and distracting to other kids. So like that's just something to think about with the young kids, is being able to let them have that space.
Also, go watch old episodes of Get Smart if you can, because it's still funny.
Yeah.
What if it is on computer for the younglings?
That's harder. My recommendation would be to talk to your school and go ahead and predetermine some kids that you don't want to take the computer screener at the same time as your class, and then pre-organize a different time for them to take it. Don't even try. Like, don't try this.
Don't try. Good advice. Really should be the theme of the podcast. Don't try. Don't even try.
Okay, but what if behaviors pop up and it's the assessment and you're dealing with younger students?
I don't know.
I just dial 0. Well, that's because that's what our school does. But I call the office right away and just ask someone to come and get this kid.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not...
How's that different with the younger kids than the older kids?
You just have to pre-tell the office that, like, there's not warnings in this classroom today. If a kid is not ready for the assessment and their behaviors are going to cause other kids to not be successful with the assessment, this child is not in trouble. They didn't do anything wrong. They just can't be here.
Right.
So if your office wants you pre-give
I mean, they
the
did do
things.
something wrong, but it's not about that.
But it's not about that. It's not,
It's just-
we shouldn't be contacting parents. We shouldn't be making this a deal. This isn't, they were just a kid in a moment where it needed to be about what everyone else needed.
Right.
Yeah. Like, don't talk about it. Like, just let it go.
So recap time.
It's recap time.
High stakes testing. Normal behavior management. No. Although you're going to preserve it's not about feelings or wants or stuff. It's just the law.
The worst thing you can do is create stress.
Yeah, don't create like, oh, well, this person had the teacher get mad at them. So what if I do something and the teacher gets mad at me? You don't want them thinking like that.
No.
So don't be mean.
Don't be mean.
Be proactive. And
Yes.
sort of old school. By that, you mean it's not like we're going to escalate from warning to peace corner to some other thing. It's
no.
immediate removal.
And I'll set timers. I'll be like, okay, we're going to just get organized for the test. So for 5 minutes, let's get all of the supplies that we need. Let's get situated, and then I'm going to like, okay, now in 1 minute, it's going to be time for us to this is a silent environment for everyone. Does anyone else need anything? Because now is the time. Because in 1 minute we're gonna start the test, and then once we start the test, then that's it.
You tell the students on testing days we need calm, and ask them to come to you after class if they think, oh, I know I'm gonna act out and I'm gonna get in trouble. I don't want to. And invite them to say, oh, if that's safe, you can have a separate location and time so that your disruption won't hurt anyone else. Or ask them to say, hey, if you just think you would have a better score if you're not in the main room because of people like tapping their pencils and stuff will make you go nuts. Invite them to talk to you about that too, because if finding them a separate room to take the test improves their score, that's well worth your cost.
Yes.
We already talked about this a little bit, but no warnings. You just pick up their materials and they're gone according to the plan you already made. And then you need a post-test activity so that you're not inviting disruptions from the people who are done. And you like your little line puzzles or your color by numbers or some paper-based thing that they can very quietly do that will chew up their time without disrupting the other people who are finishing.
Yes.
And then for the younglings, not younglings. If it's not on a computer, you turn the class around kind of and have them face the wall so that they're not really looking at anyone else. Reduces visual distraction.
Yep. Spread them out.
You say that like kindergartners sometimes are even best like on their tummies.
Yes.
If it's on a computer, it's a little bit harder, but it's similarly identify the ones you know might be problems and invite them to take it at a separate time.
Yes.
All right. I mean, this all seems pretty logical to me, honestly.
It does, but it's one of those things that it's very easy to create a testing environment that is stressful. I used to create testing environments that weren't stressful. They were stressful. It was calm and it was quiet and everyone was doing exactly what they were supposed to. And then my scores weren't very good. And I realized it's because to get the testing environment, I'm creating stress. And then under stress and duress, the kids aren't doing very well.
That's the secret to what you're talking about
Yeah,
here.
it's got, my classroom even feels more chill on testing days. Like, I am much more relaxed about a lot of things on testing days.
Because if you just take out a gun...
Until the test starts. And then I'm like, okay, guys, are you ready? Are you sure you're ready? Okay, because when I ding this chime, that's it. Are we sure we're all ready?
If you just take out let's not use a gun. That's mean. A sword and just cut the head off the first kid who misbehaves, you'll have a very silent room.
I hate this analogy on all levels.
What?
This causes... school violence is very scary to me.
Yeah, but it's the teacher doing it with a sword. That's not...
Stop it.
That's,
I'm not kidding. It's like upsetting the like mental stuff you go through to like think and plan what you would do if I don't like thinking about violence in schools. He's making a look at me, but I feel like some teachers are like with me right now.
all right, let's come up with a different thing then.
If you're like a drill sergeant, like I ran testing like a drill sergeant.
If you metaphorically tear someone a new one so much that they're scared to talk anymore, you'll have a very silent classroom. How about this? If you have the Force, since we're talking about younglings, and you Darth Vader choke the first kid who misbehaves, you will have a very silent, superficially really good testing environment, but it's not actually good because everyone is so anxious as to what might happen to them next that you've lost all the benefit from the superficially good environment, right?
Yeah, I suppose. I don't like your analogy, but yes, I think people got it. I think we're good.
No one is going to Darth Vader choke anyone.
Okay, fine.
That's not a real threat to anyone because the Force isn't real yet. And
I feel like my drill sergeant one was an exceptional way of saying it. Like yelling at someone because their toes are out of line makes everyone scared about where their toes are located, and it doesn't cause anyone to have a good testing experience or get good results.
Because they're too scared.
Too scared.
You need to accomplish the results of that
without creating
making
fear.
Yes.
And this is how you do it. Which sometimes means you have classes where like a third of the kids are not in your room. And you're going to say like, well, how are you going to get all those kids everywhere else? Well, you just will. And it will get you better scores. Yeah. And it is worth, like these high stakes tests, this is where it's worth your time to put your energy into making sure that the best result is happening.
All right, fine. Drill sergeant, not Darth Vader.
Yes.
It makes sense. Thank you, Johanna.
Thank you, Jared.
Johanna, do you get questions from listeners ever?
Yes, we do.
How do those listeners send you questions?
They send us an email.
Where does that email go?
teachertalk4teachers@gmail.com.
But wait, what kind of 4? How do I do 4?
All of the 4s. They can do a number 4. They can write the word FOR, or they can do FOUR, even though that one doesn't quite make sense.
Well, perfect. teachertalk4teachers@gmail.com.
Yes.
Thank you, Johanna.
Thank you, Jared.
Teacher Talk, the podcast for teachers who are lifers but still want to have a life.